Welcome to Divorce and Relationships Decoded, the show that takes the guesswork out of love, loss, and everything in between. Hosted by me, Jennifer Perri, a CDC Certified Divorce and Empowerment Coach, and Dr. Deborah Wilder, a divorce and relationship expert. This is the place where real conversations meet expert advice. So get ready to decode divorce and relationships like never before. Divorce and Relationships Decoded starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. I am one of your hosts, Jennifer Perri. I'm a CDC Certified Divorce Coach, and I am joined by my dear friend, Dr. Deborah Wilder, who is a divorce and relationship specialist. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Jennifer, this morning?
I'm good. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I've even had to manage, and I'm sure you have had to manage. It's how to deal and balance relationships with extended family. And I think this is a great conversation because we all have people like my husband. He's very social, but sometimes he likes to keep things a little just us. And one of the conversations we were having before we came on was, what happens if you marry in to a big family? Or what happens if you are dating somebody who has a big family and you may be an only child or somebody who's very introverted, and now here you are? What is the best way to balance that? And what do you see where there could be areas of conflict and compromise?
That's a really important question. And it comes into play, I think, especially when you have kids, young kids and extended families. It's not unusual to have one partner, one spouse who either isn't as close to his or her family or lives away from his or her family, marrying someone who lives closer to his or her family and wants to spend more time. I know for me, when I was married, my ex-husband came from a smaller family, but from another state, and he moved here before we met, but stayed here. We got married, and I have a large immediate family. I have an older sister and older brother and two younger sisters, and my parents, of course, at the time. And so I would see my parents as often as I could. I was always very close with them, and my dad has passed, but I'm still very close with my mother and my family. So when we were married, we would go on vacations. Once the kids, I think my middle child was 6 months old at the time, when we started going on family vacations with everybody, and my husband at the time, it was enjoyable. We had a great time. Everybody got along well. So that was never an issue, but it was so wonderful for the children and the grandparents and the parents and the aunts and the uncles and the cousins. And it was really a blessing in many ways. But there were times when he might have wanted to take a vacation somewhere else with just us. And I would think it was a challenge because I would think we could always do that another time. Or why couldn't we do that another time sometimes? And then what would that take away from the kids? Would that take away from the grandparents and the family? I'm a big believer in family. And if the family is a healthy family unit, it does something to everybody to have those close ties. But I can understand the desire to have more separation, let's say, from them. We weren't on top of each other, but a very close family. And he was a very important member of our family at the time. So there were challenges then. And how do you choose? How do you figure out, where do you say, no, we're not going to do that this time, or I don't want to participate? You go ahead. If you're not necessarily that close, or you don't want to be as involved, or maybe your spouse is very close with the family, and then you might not even like the family. So how do you decline while not looking like the bad guy or the bad gal? It can be a big challenge. I'm working with some couples now where they're trying to work through that. I'm a big believer in family, but I also believe that the separate family, the parents and their kids, that's the unit. But it's also a blessing to have these other folks around. I very much hope and pray that within a couple of years, I'll be a grandmother, and I am going to be extremely involved with that, with my daughter and her soon-to-be husband, and please God, grandchildren. But I know there are limits. I'm not just going to show up at the door or things like that. I'm not intrusive in that way. But how do you create that sort of space in between? I don't think there's an easy answer. I'm speaking from my own experience. I don't think there's an easy answer because everybody's feelings are valid and important. Sometimes you look at the big picture versus just an independent picture sometimes. And then sometimes you have to just look at the person and say, this is too much for me. You go and enjoy. I'm okay with that. But I don't want to be a bad guy or a bad gal if I don't want to participate. I need to have that. Otherwise, I don't want to feel trapped and feel like I'm losing my autonomy as a grown-up and as a husband or as a wife or as a parent. I don't want to lose that autonomy. I can certainly refer back to my own experiences and the work that I've done with others who have struggled, who are struggling, and even with my own extended family, some struggles that they may have had making decisions about. And then you can talk about family traditions. What do you do with, let's say, celebrating Christmas or Easter or the Jewish holidays or any other holiday where typically you would have gone to your family's house to do it. But let's say that's not going to work, or you need to share families. That's also something, maybe that's a different question, but that's also something, I guess, along the same, okay, I do this all the time, the family spectrum, but those are difficult questions. How do you choose? I'm curious with you because I know you have extended family, you have parents, and you have a husband, you have kids, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about how do you delineate and deal with those challenges.
You had said something a few episodes back where we were talking about non-negotiables and boundary setting at the very beginning of a relationship. And I think having conversations, hey, listen, one of my non-negotiables is I have a wonderful family for 20 some years. I've gone to their house for Christmas, or we've celebrated Thanksgiving together, or we vacation together. Having that conversation at the front end so you know what the expectations are. I have friends who married only children. They only had themselves and their family. And I remember this conversation with my one friend, and she was a big Greek family. And she was like, when he comes to places, he's so antisocial. And I said, is he antisocial or is he just scared to death because he doesn't know what to do? I said, you need to talk with him and also let your family know, hey, listen, so-and-so he's not used to all this loudness and all these people. You have to ease that in and understand he's not being antisocial or she's not being antisocial. You just got to give them an opportunity to find their place in the middle of all this. One of the things that I see, and I hope that my children, as they move on and get married and give me grandbabies, that they create traditions of their own. Where I know when we were younger, we were going over to this person's house and this person's house. And I remember on Christmas morning, you'd open all your gifts and then you stack them. And then as people come to visit, you had to sit there and show them what you got for Christmas. Like I remember that, like vividly remembering that. But you get to a point now where it's, hey, we're going to be here for Christmas, or we're going to be here for Thanksgiving. We're creating our own traditions with our kids. We'd love for you to come over. We'd love for you to be here, brunch, whatever. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way because they're not used to change and they want to keep things the same way they are. But when you step out of that and you step into a relationship and a marriage and a partnership and you're with somebody, you become one and you have to respect that and respect each other. My husband's Canadian, so we go to Canada as often as we possibly can because a lot of his family is still there. I'm the only person in Georgia with my children. My whole family is still up north. You have to make the trips, do the things. And we're in agreement with that. As much as we would love people to come and visit us, we also know that's probably not going to happen. So we have to make the decisions to go up there. And when you're trying to negotiate time and you may only get 2 weeks a year or 1 week a year for vacation, that becomes even harder, especially if you're going off on these big family vacations and all, and you find a situation like we're going to be here for a week or 5 days. And I'd like for it to be where we just go someplace and create our own memory. You're right. It is a hard thing to understand, and it's a hard thing to find compromise in. I think communicating with your family as well as just, hey, listen, just want to give you like a little feedback. If he comes over or she comes over and she doesn't know what to do or he doesn't know what to do, please don't form an opinion about them because they just don't know where they fit in all of this. Then you're going to find yourself with people who do not have a really great relationship with their family. So they may have been celebrating years of holidays by themselves or birthdays by themselves. And now you are together and you have this big welcoming family who wants to surround them. And that in its own is going to be an entirely different conversation, especially if they've not had that. When you're working with the clients that you're working with, what advice do you give them if you have somebody who just may not be used to the overwhelm? What's the best way to get them involved in your extended family?
Feeling forced never feels good. And so one person might feel forced to go. Another person might feel deprived if they're not able to go. It's tough to make that choice sometimes, but when with what you're talking about, to have someone who really isn't used to having all of that family energy around them. I just love what you said before. Let people in the family know, just go easy on this person. Just be inclusive, be kind and thoughtful, and just aware that this is a lot at one time with this person who's not used to having all this, again, and kind of family energy
Right.
around.
I love family energy. When we're talking about this, I keep thinking of My Big Fat Greek Wedding and that movie and how the guy was just integrated into this family. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's just what's going through my mind as you're talking.
See, my family is very close. I am in this family not because I deserve to be more than anybody else, but luck of the draw. I am extremely fortunate. My parents did not come from families like ours, and they each had their own troubles in their families and heartaches and things, but they made it their mission to build something. And so our family has been sacred to us, and our extended family, the spouses and the children and all of that. But it can be a lot to someone coming in. But that's our family, and we're always extremely welcoming and all of that. But again, it's different. Look at the people that my kids have dated who've met the family. Some are very comfortable. Some are still a little bit uncomfortable with the closeness that we have, or just the energy that we have. When we're all sitting around a table, there's a lot of laughter, a lot of talking. It's just something very special, but not everybody's used to that kind of energy, and they're used to maybe a little bit more quiet, or just not as many people maybe. So part of it is trying to include those folks, but also respecting their feelings. But it can be easy to feel overwhelmed in a situation like that. And then you're right, as well as not looking at that person like they're deficient or there's something wrong with them. It's just, again, it's a different kind of energy. And the more you maybe spend time, hopefully you can get more used to that, and it becomes a part of what you enjoy in life. But again, not to feel forced or feel trapped. I'm working with some couples now who have very different ideas, not necessarily a family, but how much time do you actually spend? If you're going to see your parents every day and you've got your own family and your own kids, that might be a bit much, kind of depending on the situation. Or if you're both parents may be close to both families, and how do you choose? Who are we going to spend the holidays with this year? How do you choose? So families are wonderful when they're close and their extended family and all of that, but it's also a challenge. This gets to the choice question. How do you manage the time? And sometimes it's not a win-win. Sometimes it is a win-lose. That's what it feels like. And so you try to compromise as much as possible while respecting the individual and the unit of the couple, but also being able to appreciate the value of extended family when it's a healthy extended family. I'll say there's plenty of toxicity, and I'm not an advocate of forcing anybody to spend time with toxic family members, a family unit. So I know it can be a challenge, but like you said before, these non-negotiables, to let someone know early on if you're close to your family or if you're estranged from your family, and just figure it out from that point and talk about, what does that mean? What does that look like? What if, let's say we have kids someday, what is that going to look like? Are your parents going to come over every day, or are we going to have to beg them and plead for them to come over? So these discussions are really important, but sometimes you don't know until you have. Let's say you have kids, and then when parents become grandparents, so that changes the rules here a lot. And then you have to figure that out. I promise my daughter and my son-in-law will be respectful, but I'll be very close by. Anyway, these are all choices and very important discussions to have. So I'm glad that we're talking about this.
And I also think too, is it's very important to advocate for your relationship. If you are advocating and you're having the conversations, you would think the natural progression would be, so I'm getting married, which means there's going to be two people now that have to make a consideration and where what we're going to do, and understanding to be respectful of it. And I see it happen with friends too. If you're really close friends, like my son has his best friend recently got married and now they have a baby. And for him, he is so excited for his friend. But there are situations too where you see these guys and groups of girls that have been going out and doing all this stuff for so long, and then one gets married, and then the next one gets married, and then the ones that aren't married get upset. We want to spend time with you. Well, your spouse is being controlling. No, it's just a natural progression in life. It's okay if you still once a year do your girls' vacations and all that, or whatever it is that you do, but understand and respect the couple and respect the partnership. That's the most important thing. I want my kids to obviously be happy and find their soulmates and have grandbabies and all of that, but I'm going to be respectful of that. My one son wants to live in another country, and I'm like, go. You have one life, and I want you to enjoy and explore and be curious and do all those things. And technology is a wonderful thing, and airplanes are a wonderful thing. We'll make it happen. I do a lot in the financial world, and that's one of the conversations I have with people who are going into being married or getting ready to buy a house and do those things, making sure they're having conversations about family. I had a conversation with a couple, and she was like, absolutely. My parents can just move in right downstairs, and he has no problem with it. And he's like, wait a second. Yeah, I do. You know what I mean? So having those conversations, because those things in life are going to happen.
It's a challenge nonetheless. It's going to happen. It just really depends on the strength of the family, on the closeness of the family, on the pull of the family versus the larger family versus the couple and all of that. So it's a tough decision sometimes. It is. I'm glad we talked about this. And what I will say, like you were saying, one of your sons wants to move to another country. I always tell my kids, I hope that you stay as close by as you can, please. But I can't hold you back if you want to move somewhere. That's up to you. I would give you my blessing. Just leave the kids with me. That's fine. Leave the grandkids with me. No, things happen. Kids move. People move. But you can still be close even if you live far away. And then you have to figure out where you're going to travel, how you're going to do that. I think many families struggle with this. So I'm glad that we talked about it today.
I got used to when my son was in the Marines and he was stationed in Japan. And at first I thought, this is not going to work. I can't do it. I have to be able to put my arms around my kid. It's not going to do it. But the fact that I can lay eyes on him, I could see that he was okay. Now that's going to be a different dynamic when there's a grandbabies involved, to your point. But again, you can make it happen. We had Christmas right here in our home. And for anybody that wanted to come and see us, they were welcome. People are welcome in our home all the time. That's not an issue. And I think for some people, you have to do that. You have to say, we're building our own traditions, our own memories. We'd love to see you, but we're going to be here this year. Before we wrap up today, is there anything else that you would like to add in the conversation about how to deal with extended family and friends?
Yeah, that's true. Extended family and friends. Paying special attention to family traditions. If you grew up in a home with really some significant family traditions, that's also something that needs to be discussed. What does that look like? How do you keep those family traditions alive, or do you start your own new traditions and maybe have both? It's a challenge. But family is what we've got if we're lucky enough to have healthy families or build our own. It's all about connection, and we all need that. We all need that connection.
Absolutely. We hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you, my friend, so much for joining me today and for your insight and feedback as always. So we will be back again next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and empowering. If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, healing, growth, and transformation happens one conversation at a time. If you have a question, a story, or a topic you'd love for us to explore, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at questions@drdecoded.com. Your thoughts and experiences are always welcome here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another insightful episode of Divorce and Relationships Decoded. Until then, take care and keep moving forward.